Game over. Prosecutor who questioned Ford drives final nail into her coffin. Well, folks, it's official. The liberal left will now become even more unhinged than normal. The sex crime prosecutor who questioned Ford last week, Rachel Mitchell, laid out in a clear 5-page memo for the committee all the inconsistencies she actually found in Christine Blasey Ford's story. Confirming that she would never bring charges against Judge Brett Kavanaugh based upon the evidence and testimonies given. Mitchell stated that this was even weaker than a he said, she said case. Because according to her expertise the witnesses, named by Ford, actually refute or don't corroborate her case whatsoever. Here is more on this via. Here are the problems detailed by Mitchell. 1. Ford isn't consistent on when the assault ever occurred. She varies, with multiple descriptions, telling the WAPO the mid-1980s, Feinstein early 80s, the polygraph statement high school summer in early 80s with early then crossed out, the WAPO summer of 1982. Notes from a therapy session she provided the WAPO said late teens but she told the WAPO and the committee she was 15. And she's refused to turn over the therapy notes. While one might be unclear about a date, Dr. Ford failed to explain how she was suddenly able to narrow the timeframe to a particular season and particular year. 2. She didn't actually name Kavanaugh in the therapy notes in 2012 and 2013 and then the odd question where she says that her husband recalls that she used the name. 3. She testified that she told her husband that she had experienced a sexual assault before they were married. But she told the WAPO that she told him she had experienced physical abuse before they were married. She said she was referring to the same thing. 4. What she doesn't remember are key details that could prove or disprove her claim. She does not remember who invited her to the party or how she heard about it. Perhaps most importantly, she does not remember how she got from the party back to her house. Her inability to remember this detail raises significant questions. She told the Washington Post that the party took place near the Columbia Country Club. The club is more than 7 miles from her childhood home as the crow flies, and she testified that it was a roughly 20-minute drive from her childhood home. She also agreed for the first time in her testimony that she was driven somewhere that night, either to the party or from the party or both. Dr. Ford was able to describe hiding in the bathroom, locking the door, and subsequently exiting the house. She also described wanting to make sure that she did not look like she had been attacked. But she has no memory of who drove her or when. Nor has anyone come forward to identify him or herself as the driver. Given that this all took place before cell phones, arranging a ride home would not have been easy. Indeed, she stated that she ran out of the house after coming downstairs and did not state that she made a phone call from the house before she did, or that she called anyone else thereafter. But then she remembers small details that wouldn't prove or disprove her case, such as that she had 1 beer and took no medications. 5. None of the people she alleged to be at the party have corroborated her claim or even that there was such a party. Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, Patrick P.J. Smith, and her lifelong friend Leland Kaiser née Ingham. During the hearing she claimed there was another boy but she couldn't recall the name. Moreover, Dr. Ford testified that her friend Leland, apparently the only other girl at the party, did not follow up with Dr. Ford after the party to ask why she had suddenly disappeared. 6. Ford's story about what happened has not been consistent. In her letter to Feinstein, she said he heard Kavanaugh and Judge talking to other people at the party while she was hiding in the bathroom. But during testimony, she said she couldn't hear them. And she's been inconsistent about describing who was at the party with multiple versions. 7. Ford had trouble recalling important recent actions relevant to making her claims. She couldn't recall if she showed her therapist's notes to the WAPO she did. And she refused to show the committee the therapist's notes. She said she wanted it to remain confidential but she actually called the WAPO tipline before she told anyone else and despite saying that she had a sense of urgency to relay the information to the Senate and the President she contacted her representative, not Feinstein first. She said she couldn't remember if she was recorded while she was taking the polygraph. And she could not remember whether the polygraph occurred the same day as her grandmother's funeral or the day after her grandmother's funeral. Mitchell also makes the point that it's professionally wrong to administer a polygraph to someone grieving. 8. There are questions about her alleged psychological effect of the assault. While claiming a fear of flying, she flies frequently for work and hobbies. She flies to the Mid-Atlantic and has flown to Hawaii, French Polynesia, and Costa Rica as well as to Washington, D.C. for the hearing. It's not clear that her attorneys ever told her about Chairman Grassley's offer to have people fly to California to interview her. She doesn't say that she had problems in the rest of high school while she says this contributed to issues in college. She implied there were other issues that contributed to her symptoms, but when asked about them, she wouldn't list other issues, noting none was as striking as this. 9. The activities of congressional Democrats and Dr. Ford's attorneys likely affected Dr. Ford's account. Here's the timeline referred to in Mitchell memo. As you can see, her story doesn't add up. No matter how much the left kicks, screams and throws tantrums, her story just cannot be corroborated. There is no doubt something happened to this woman, real or imaginary. But the fact is she has contradicted herself too much and she lied way too much, although the left-wing media tried to convince us that she was truthful and credible. I don't know of one person whose opinion she changed. The biggest red flag in my book was the fact that she had issues flying, but we later found out she was a frequent flyer who flies often for both business and pleasure. When asked about this, she said she has no issue flying when it's for vacation? What? We know this woman can't be all there. After all, she is or claims to be a psychologist, which is pretty much a field that changes parameters depending on what far-left social justice platform they care to support this month. But you would expect if she was going to make an accusation like that, she would at least try to seem credible. And let's not forget the fact that her social media pages were scrubbed the moment the letter came out. Odd, don't you agree?